1, 2, 3. Recording. I'm going to show you some stuff. 5 basic elements that you're going to have on any page, and that is pictures, headlines, body copy, captions, and space. And you both have had drawing or painting, right? So you know that space is an actual genuine element, needs to be treated as such. So say you're back at home in Yearbook Avenue and you go into the ladder and you can go look at either what you do the soonest, right, or which are assigned to you, which none of them really are assigned just yet. But I'm going to do, instead of doing homecoming, because I still feel like that would be awesome for either 1, 2, or all 3 of you to do yourselves instead of me showing you how to do. Because we might have some conversation about what should be on this page and whatnot, but because I'm the one at the mouse, basically I'm the one that ends up, could feel like I designed it, not them. So we're on page 1, and instead of that being a table of contents or an introduction this year, it's going to be your baseball and our softball. You notice that it's got a big, huge grid on it. You go over here, and you can zoom in and zoom out. And basically, each of these little squares is called a pica, P-I-C-A. And a pica is, I want to say it's about 1/8 of an inch. That's going to be in your learning that I'm finally going to upload this afternoon. I was going to do it yesterday afternoon, and I sucked at that. I'm sorry. But like I said, quiz isn't until next Friday. It's not like it's this Friday. At any rate, cool jiffy thing here. You can see the whole page into your computer screen if you want to look at it all at once, or especially like if you're writing stuff, zoom in more than 100%. I mean, there's other stuff. You can go to other pages without having to go back to the ladder. Over here on the left, this is basically the ladder, so you can navigate to other pages. This, as Colleen was talking to you about in our meeting last week, you can use all kinds of templates if you want to. But what I want to do is show you how to design a page without having to have all those templates. So just like we've got these 5 elements, there's generally about 5 simple steps to a traditional design. And this will work for anything that you want to do, not just a yearbook. If you say you write stories and you decide that you want to self-publish on Amazon and Kindle, they'll give you a little template and you can figure out how you want to flow your poems or stories or pictures or whatever on Amazon's thing if you're going to self-publish. If you have a business, or maybe it's an assignment for another class, like a business class, high school or college, and you got to make a flyer or a newsletter or a menu, you name it. These skills are going to help you do that. Okay. One thing that works for all graphic design, which is really cool, and Josten's allows us this. See what I did there on that ruler? When I click on a ruler, I can bring down a guideline. Okay, and this is not going to show up when it's printed. This is just for you to kind of help you with your layout or your design. I'm really sad. Maybe my lamp is going. I finally got a new cord. You don't see that, Jenna. Sorry, but it's probably kind of like a strobe light for Tori. It's got to be driving her crazy. You go over here to the side rulers, and you get the same thing. And if you are really OCD or really into math, you can look at that. I think it's usually like 52 picas wide, or approximately 8 inches. And you can do the division, or you can do like I just did and kind of eyeball it. And if you do have OCD instead of ADD like me, and I'm off by a little bit, that's probably driving you crazy. But this simple tic-tac-toe board is going to help give you structure, just structure. So really one of the first steps is figuring out what you're going to do with your columns and your margins. Well, we always pretty much have this, I think, like a half-inch margin, and that's fine. It's like the lip around the plate. It's like the sidewalk and the hedges around the house. It's like the frame around the picture. It helps to kind of draw people's attention, kind of frame the layout. Now, rules are meant to be broken, and I will show you in a little bit. You can place pictures going off the page. They call that a bleed because when the paper cutter cuts the multiple is like a sheet that'll have, trying to remember the number. It's like 12. If the signature is 16, it's 8. There's 8 pages printed on each side of this thing. So each side is a multiple, and the whole thing together is a signature. Right? Where the blade comes down, cuts your picture, so that's why they call it a bleed. But this tic-tac-toe board, what does this remind you of? Because haven't you had photography, or is just Tori had photography? There you go. She said rule of thirds. I don't know if you heard that, Jenna. Yeah, it's kind of like in photography where you have 3 rows, 3 columns, or a grid of 9 squares, and you can have above, middle, and below. You can have background, middle ground, and foreground. Again, you can have left side, middle, and right. But these little doohickeys right here, where they intersect, call them hotspots if you want to. They're focal points. If you have a photograph, that's where you want, if you have 3 people, that's where you want your person that's your main subject. Now, if you have 4 geese flying across, it'd be nice to have a goose on each intersection. If it's a building or a landscape, what you want people to focus on, or what you want to be dominant. You don't want to be dead center. You want to be on one of those. So that's step 1. It's getting your grid, your columns, your margin. Step 2, we'll go over here to this tool. Having photos, but I think what I'd rather do is I want of a blank photo. Here we go. So image frame. So 1, 2, 3, fourth one down. These are going to be things that I can make graphics, shapes, whatever. And I'm not going to do one right now, but these are going to be for where we're going to put photos. Right? Start with rectangles. If you want to experiment with funky shapes, good for you. That's great. But so since we really have 2 sports on here, probably shouldn't divide my page into a regular tic-tac-toe board. I should probably divide it up even more. Instead of 2 that have 9 or 1 that has 9, I'll just have 2 that have 6, because chances are pretty good that I want my main picture to be my team picture. It doesn't have to be. If I have a really good action picture, maybe I want a nice big action picture. But I figure out, and that is looking like it's not quite taking up half the width of the page, and it's kind of tall. It might be a dominant picture. It's an action picture. I'm probably going to definitely want to have a team picture. And it's got to be big enough that I can see everybody. The bummer here is I really want to have one main picture that's my anchor. And I'm going to need to have room for caption of who the players are. So maybe what I should do, and I'm going to hit delete on here. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, because this is stuff that I would teach you in 18 and 19 instead of 17. But if I do go instead of photo shapes, but some other shapes. What I can do is have a layout within a layout. And I'm going to say, okay, so maybe I make the top the baseball and the bottom one is going to be the softball. Not because one team is better than the other, just because I know that I've got pictures of baseball. Might have to scramble to find pictures of girls. So this gray thing is called what's it called? Remember, Ted. It's a content module. I think of these boxes like they're modules. I don't know if you've ever seen people build a house out of containers, you know, either usually they're semi-truck pods, right? Containers. We've seen that kind of thing like on one of those HGTVs or that kind of thing. So what this is going to allow you to do is I'm going to have one dominant element, except that it's going to be a mini layout. It's going to be a montage of smaller pictures. Okay, because you should probably always start with one center of visual interest, one anchor or dominant kind of thing. Cool thing, Control C, Control V. We get copies of stuff. And maybe I'm going to leave some room down here for caption. And usually it's great to do things in 3, 5, and 7 instead of in 4. But we'll say that this is 5 because of the background. I don't have to leave the background gray. You know, if it's a sport, maybe I want it to be tan like the dirt. Maybe I want it to be green like the grass. Since we're the Bulldogs, maybe I end up having it be black or purple. But let me see. Looks like if I go over here, I get to choose color. So now I'm going to be boring into a dirt color. Ew. Nutmeg is not dirty, it's nutty. Here we go. They call it squash. It looks too yellow. That'd be good for 4H. Oh, screw it. Let's go with the purple. Wisteria purple. Very nice. Understated. Okay. So really, this would be step 1 then. Having your dominant element. And step 1 is your columns or your grid and your margins. Step 2 is your dominant element. Step 3, we go back to these eye lines, and what we want to do is make sure, and normally you want them to be 1 pica apart. I should zoom in so that you can actually see that kind of thing. See how these are 2 or 3. Usually you want elements to be 1 pica apart, but since they're 2 different sorts sharing 1 page, we're going to make them 2 picas apart. But what I've just done, and this would be better if it was a 2-page spread instead of 1 page, but this is called an eye flow line, okay? And it works as kind of a belt. And it doesn't have to be underneath your dominant element. It can be above it, but your dominant element doesn't have to be vertical. It just happens to be that it's halfway. Okay? A lot of times it'll be at 2/3. What this does, one, it gives you some white space that is going to frame that dominant element. Okay, and 2, if you do your work right on the rest of these steps, it's going to help lead the viewer's eyes across the page left to right. But 3, when you're working on a 2-page spread instead of a 1-page layout, it's going to work like a kind of like a belt. It's going to tie the 2 pages together. So subconsciously, your viewer thinks that it's 1 spread instead of 2 pages. Okay. And in our case, what we could also do, another design thing, is I take a couple more of these guides. Remember, these guides don't end up showing up when they're printed. They're like invisible. But this is called a rail. Okay. This gray thing here is where our gutter will be. So this left page is going to be the end page, the inside of the front cover. But this space does a lot of the same things that eyeline does, and what a rail does is it's a kind of a vertical eye flow line. It helps to frame and draw our attention to our dominant element. In this case, since we've got two mini layouts, we've got baseball and softball, now it'll tie the two halves of the page together. And so, and just continues to add more structure for us. In theory, you don't want anything, any other images to cross in these spaces. You want to leave these spaces no matter what. But rules are meant to be broken, so you can eventually. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back, because if step one is the guidelines and the margins, and step two is getting your dominant element on there, step three is, call it subordinate elements, that things that are going to be smaller than that main thing. So I'm going to go ahead and say I don't know if I need more. I also don't know for sure if I have more, but I'm going to put maybe a couple pictures here. And that should be one pie cup apart, and they're about the same size. So one thing I end up having is some hierarchy. This is my biggest picture, the group picture, although this is my biggest element, this other module. And then I have medium-sized picture and smaller pictures. Okay, so do the repetition and see if I remember them in order. When you do the reading and look at the notes, it goes through this. So step one, get your structure, your column guides, and your margins. Step two, place your dominant element. Step three, place your eye line, and if you're going to use one, a rail. Step four then is your subordinate pictures. And now we'll go in here and ooh, are they not going to automatically put page numbers on there for us? That's going to worry me. Anyway, step five here then is adding, I got to drag it. I got to drag it. So this is new. They've changed, as Colleen was telling you the other day, they've changed some of their stuff a little bit. So I'm going to have a caption underneath the team picture. I'm going to go back over here to do the same thing and drag it. And if I zoom in, not only will it be easier for you to understand and see what I'm doing, but I don't want that to end up being body copy. I wanted that to be caption. What if I changed it to body copy when I enlarged it? Okay, so here's one caption. I'll ditch that body copy because we're not writing stories. We're just including captions. And until we write something, these not really text. We're not dealing with the story editor yet. What we're dealing with is these are just blocks. So it'd be cool if they automatically filled this with nonsense words, lorem ipsum or whatever, as a placeholder, so we could see them as a block, just like all these other blocks on our page. Nope. Okay, and I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to have it here in my story module. You know, and maybe if you've got a portable mouse, if you feel more comfortable, you may want to use a mouse. That's what I do, but I'm, you know, a middle-aged guy. You know, if you feel comfortable with the touchpad, then by all means, feel free to use touchpad. I do this because it's just what I'm used to. And probably one last thing, right? What's it missing? It is missing headline. Now, a headline does not have to be on the top of the page. I can put the headline here in this module. I could change the size of that module. For now, and I might change this if things don't work, I think, frankly, I'm going to have my headline overlapping my group picture. But okay, I can change the size of it. Now I made it too big. I can change the size of it. I can change the font, although we don't have a lot of fonts right now. So one of the things that we'll need to do as a staff is talk about what fonts do we want for different sections. I figure it's sports, so it's good to be sans as opposed to serif, sans serif, serif. Roman, it's got these little feet on it, sans serif. Anybody that's had commercial art with me, we've gone through that. And actually, kind of what I'm thinking is, since these are similar sports, since we don't have truckloads of pictures, since they're each only getting a half page instead of a whole page, might want to have the other team's layout be similar to this one. So if I go up here, it says group, right? You can tell it's going to be group because it's one box around two little boxes, but I grouped that. And now I can copy it and paste it, but probably if it will, I may have to find, I have any effects up here. Probably it's going to come under arrange, yay. I could rotate it, I could transform it. Ooh, I would like to mirror it. Mirror it, then it mirrored the whole damn thing. That's not what I wanted. Well, always be ready to go to undo up there. What if can I flip not the whole thing, but just one? It's giving me a message and I can't see the message because of, ought to be, yeah. And a lot of this, obviously, I can learn it maybe quicker than you because I've used other programs similar to this, but I'm worried that if I try rotating it, yeah, if I use this tool, maybe I can turn it upside down, which is not ridiculous. And I drag it over here. And then maybe what I should do is definitely ungroup it. And probably want to re-rotate my headline and move my headline somehow. I'm probably gonna have to do that with captions too. Maybe I even group this module and turn her upside down and ungroup, and come to think that, yeah, leave my eyeline in there. Grab all of these. Oh, it doesn't want to let me group them. What did I do wrong? Well, maybe they are already grouped and I need to ungroup them. Seems like I screwed something up here. It's just always embarrassing when you're recording for whatever we call this thing, Zoom, right? Recording for the Zoom meeting. Here's something I want to show you. Okay. In good design, and I'll zoom this out just a little bit. Well, that's too much. In good design, we never want to trap white space. We always want to have our white space be on the outside, almost like we planned it. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to take that caption and move both of these pictures in. And then that caption box is going to be on the outside so that the air's got to be able to get out. an analogy that I give kids is, I know I'm sharing my screen, so I don't know whether or not you can picture me if I'm on here at all. But I've got a pen, I'm using it like it's a hypodermic needle, and I'm a doctor on TV. And before I give somebody a shot of medicine, I have to make sure there's no bubbles in it, because you put a bubble in somebody's vein or artery and it makes it to their heart, and it's going to give them a heart attack. So good design, we can get through. Our eyes always have a way to escape. Okay, so I have a really pretty simple design. I don't know whether I love this or not, but okay, I did the boys one and I mirrored it and made it the girls one too. So there's kind of a cohesiveness, or because they both have something in common. You don't have to like these. If this is too structured, I'm showing you, it's like we're taking baby steps. I'm having you crawl before you walk, walk before you jog, jog before you run, run before you fly. You can do wild stuff, but if you try doing wild stuff without knowing how to do the boring stuff, then it's going to look like it's thrown together and slapped together haphazardly, and you don't know what you're doing. So by teaching you how to do this kind of slow, those 5 elements, headline, caption, artwork, graphic, white space, those 5 steps, columns and margins first, dominant element next, iFlow liner rail after that, subordinate elements, then the headlines and captions to finish it up with those 5 steps and those 5 elements. It's boring, it's a grid, but if you have that structure, then you're going to be able to build off of that structure. Okay, so here I have some pictures, right? And right now the section is spring and summer, and it looks like I got graduation and prom, and I think that's after prom, but that's not what I wanted, right? So I go down to sports, and maybe I choose baseball first, and I'll go back to softball, and I hope I have some decent softball pictures in there. I don't have to use this. What this is a screenshot of some statistics or something. Okay, what I might even want to do is like drag this over to my workspace so that later on when I'm writing the captions, I can zoom in and see, oh, okay, who from Boyer Valley got anything on all team or second all team, and then eventually I'll just delete that. Might want to be that I have a good action shot, like this one of Sam, but I'm gonna hold off because I don't want him walking off the page. And well, that's always good. Maybe have the superintendent's kid. I could have swore I had a lot more pictures than this, but maybe I don't. Maybe that's all I got for group. Well, so I'll change my layout a little bit. So let's go ahead and should be. All I had to do was drag it to the picture where I want it, and there's Clay, right? And probably be a great idea to have the seniors in there someplace. So I'll put them in that horizontal. And at this team picture, seeing as it's this real long horizontal, maybe what I got to do is come in here, ungroup it so I can adjust stuff, take out this picture, and kind of change the shape and size of my big group picture so that it's going to fit. And I hope it will. I'm lining it up with the top of Clay. Cool thing is, this is Jedi Mind Trick. This is Principles of Design, iFlow. Both that back fence and Clay's eye and where he's running to, all of that lead us into the design. Then I can grab Sherry's group picture. Kapow. It's just fast. I'll figure something else out maybe with my headline. And maybe what I do, if this is all the pictures that I've got, maybe, you're allowed to change your design, right? So maybe what I do is I use Sam he was one of the seniors, and he was catcher, so he's an important player. And by the way, all you got to do is double click on them, and you can crop them. It's kind of cool. And seeing as they're seniors, maybe seniors should be a little bigger, more prominent. So, and now maybe what I'm going to end up doing is this space can be, whoops, some of this space can end up being a caption for both the seniors and Clay. And maybe I'm going to end up having kind of a dog-legged space here for my caption for the group picture. One of the things that I like to do, and you don't necessarily have to do this, but if the sky is white like that, it's a good idea. Give it a half point line. See, so now it's got a black, but we really probably need to be consistent. And this one, I think, it came with its own purple background because of that's what Sherry was doing. But maybe we'll give Sam this half-inch point line here. Okay, and so we'll end up going in there with captions a little later. I think, in fact, take the caption, move all of these down a ways. So now that caption is going to be squished in between Sam, so Sam might end up having to, maybe I even crop him into being a, it's going to let me do that? Oh, there you go. Crop him into being more of a vertical picture. Make sure that my caption is going to fit. And now I can move my headline in. And I don't remember how well their season turned out. I don't think it was too bad. So you want to come up with a clever name or a phrase. You know what? So early in the game, I would much rather our headlines not be just labels like this. I want them to actually, make a statement, actually be a headline, and we'll learn more about writing headlines later in the year. But it's so early. We're just in the design part now. So pow, this white space awkward, but it's going to have captions in there. So I go back and I want to finish out the bottom part. So I look for softball, and it looks like I may not have more than, I got no action pictures. So we're screwed there, aren't we? Well, so okay. We were excited about our layout. And you know what? Same kind of thing is going to happen to you when you're working with a template. You find one of the templates that Josten has and you just absolutely love it, and that's what you want to do. But we're getting close to the deadline and we don't have enough pictures for that. So we got to do what we got to do. So I'm going to make, it seems like their group picture is a little less narrow than the boys, but then our senior picture is going to be a little bit fatter than what we have on here now. I could even go like this, and I don't know if we're going to end up finding any information about them, but this caption could be for either of those pictures, or we could use any of this empty space for getting some information about them. We can go to some of the players, the parents, the coaches, and maybe we go to Quick Stats or someplace like that, or Dunlap Reporter, and we'll find information that we can fill in here. Now, what I mean by that is, oh, look at that. When I made it upside down, the picture stayed upside down. So I wonder if that's going to happen with the next one. Oop, not quite as straight. Yeah, it is going to happen in the next one. So select that and see where its handle is since it's underneath. That lets you know that you turned it all the way upside down. One of the things that you're seeing, and that can make this a much more dynamic layout, really. I will hope, just like with the funky shapes, I hope you don't get too carried away. And again, I also want you to learn to walk before you fly. Okay, but let's try that again and see if what I have is in her box, and if not, I'll take away the box. I hate when that happens. I hope that this is a high enough resolution that I can get it close to that. That is. Must have just been like the proportions of the box that I put up there. Anywho, so I'm going to take each of these and give them that half point. I can go a lot bigger. I can go crazy and give them really thick. That's a different look. It depends on what you think is going to work best or what you would like. I'm going to change from saying headline to saying softball. And as I said, we'll learn about headline writing, and it's much better to not just have a label that says this is what this is, because you can tell. We can tell by their uniforms. We can tell that there's a mitt or a bat. We can tell what sport it is without the headline telling us that. So the headline, just like the caption, or if we were writing a news story, needs to tell us something about the season or about the team. Please, please, please. And Sierra can attest to this. Always go over here, file, save, right? Or this one right here, it looks like an old-fashioned floppy disk to save. Okay. Eventually, we don't have anything misspelled, right? Because this automatically says caption. But guess what? We can run a spell check, make sure that our names are spelled right, make sure that you don't have any big errors in whatever you were typing. There's other fun effects. We can edit the picture. The special effects are, I used to like this, although it might have kind of an 80s or 90s look to it. Well, gotta just go with it to show it to you. See how it's got rounded corners now? But that's another kind of thing we could get carried away with. No, undo the rounded corners. Tint, tone, drop shadow is really cool. You can make it glow instead of making a drop shadow. So you notice how this drop shadow now, when I zoom in, kind of makes it look 3D, like you're scrapbooking or something. And for now, I'm just going to leave it and not have it. Okay. One last thing about pages. So I showed you how to design super fast using the 5 elements and 5 steps, and that's going to be in the reading and the notes and the homework for coming up the next 2 or 3 weeks as we deal with this. And one more thing that's really helpful in, I think they call it Layout Pro now and not just YRBK Avenue. This down here, well, you can, flow we don't need to do until we get to class pages. Layers, experiment with it, see what it means. I could just be arranging what's in front and what's behind. But history, okay? I do all this work, but I don't like it. I can go to what was the design yesterday, and it should be that I can drag it over. Well, the last one that's saved. So let's say somebody comes on here with some really annoying clip art, and I don't know what they find. There's some big pink thing, and they don't even use it right because it's supposed to be a thing for. So I save it, And now I go back to today's before, so last saved, before we had that ugly pink thing on there. Okay, so it's kind of like a undo button, except it's bigger. Okay, you used to have a thing where you could save this whole layout as a template, and maybe they do. Maybe that's under File here as a practice page or a new master template or save as template. Yeah, if you like it, it's so strong, and you say, well, I love this high school volleyball layout. I want to use this for junior high volleyball. Heck, I think I want to use this for girls basketball. Well, don't just save it, but save it as a template. And then when you're going through these templates, ours look for ours instead of Josten's, and you can use what you designed before. This here says virtual book. What this is basically is a preview. Okay, and I've already saved stuff, so I'm okay if it goes away. And you can be looking at this all year long. That torqued me off because that mistake is in there. Basically, you change pages, and you can see, and I can see what's going on. So those purple ones were the ones that Sierra was working with. Go back to create and go to Ladder Pro, and it should take me back where I was. And I hope that stupid pink thing is gone. Oh, reason it's not gone, I know why, is because guess what? Forgot to hit save. Okay. This is new. So Sierra hasn't seen this before, and God bless you, Tori. You must be tired. I hope that you're still listening. This is going to be recorded if you want to watch it some other time. Looks like we're done. But let me just tell you this before we get out of the meeting, Jenna. This is like a Post-it note. No? Want to leave me a message? You leave me a message. Add comment. There it is. Okay, and so we can collaborate. If all three of you work on homecoming spread together, or you want my help and you're working at home and you're not at school, whatever. But end of meeting. See ya in what you call it, web design. Bye, Jenna.
Bye, Mallory.
Hope you learned something.